Hello, my name is Jeff. This is Castle Tillage, your 2A Self-Defense Law Network. Sorry it's been taking a little while. I have been working at my normal job overtime, and it's hard to do this stuff because I need to do the best I can for you for this free information that other people charge several $100s for courses on this. Okay, we're going to see over here. We're going to be doing trigger events right here. But I want to go back over to here to Facebook. If you want to follow me, I'm going to try to get a little bit more involved. It hasn't been working out very well. But go to 2A Self-Defense Law, like us, follow us, that kind of thing. It's going to help me out a lot. Also on YouTube, since I am now accruing monthly costs, it'd be nice if you watched the entire video. I mean, the entire ad. If it's 30 seconds or a minute, let that window do that minute ad, but go to another window and you can skip that ad. Okay, it's going to help me out a little bit. For some reason, I think YouTube has done something to this channel where it's not promoting it, it's not doing anything with it anymore, and it's been kind of disconcerting to that notion. I think this month I'm in the 30 subscriber area, where I'm normally about 100 to 175. My views are way down, the ad revenue is way down, so I'm not exactly sure if they equate this 2A self-defense law as a porn site. I think it's just despicable that YouTube and Google classifies self-defense or gun channels on the same thing as a porn channel, but that's the way it goes. So again, like this video, whether you like it or not, please help me out a little bit about this. Hit the like button, and we will go from there. We are in the middle of doing, and did this thing just freeze up on me? Well, looks like it froze up on me. That's another issue that I'm having right now, is that this Prezi program, with the way the things are going, I'm getting kind of irritated about it, but here we go. Triggering events. We've talked a little bit about what the prosecutor goes through in deciding whether your self-defense scenario is justified or unjustified. They want to determine as quickly as possible that this is a self-defense scenario so they can get you out of the legal cog, the legal system, as quick as possible, so they get on to other cases that can further career. Okay, that's basically what it does. Self-defense. Is this triggering event? Was there something that triggered it? When you're dealing with self-defense, it is either on or it's not on or off. There's nothing in between. There's no gray events. When you have an immediate threat of death or great bodily harm, it is on. Right there. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. I bleed it into number 2. Is there an immediate threat of death or great bodily harm? You need to do this. I should also say that this area, this triggering event, this innocence persona, you think that the innocence is probably the easiest one to teach, and it really isn't. Because when you're in a self-defense event, everybody thinks that they're the good guy. They are saving their own neck. Where they don't realize it is that there's people in air-conditioned rooms that are surrounded by armed people that are making the life and death situations from an armchair, like Monday morning quarterback. So is there an immediate threat of death or great bodily harm? Are you the innocent victim, or are you the provocateur? That's the biggest thing. Are you prolonging this engagement? Are you doing the verbal judo that you see on YouTube all the time? What does innocence really mean? If someone's barking at you and you're barking them back, are you becoming a willing participant at that time? You may be. You barking back and forth, you may lose your self-defense if it does go to a deadly force, just by you guys bickering. Now, if you take my class, we'll be getting into a little bit more. There are some situations where some states require verbal and physical. Other states don't necessarily have to be verbal. But those visual cues are something that you need to prey upon. It's just, in this format, I can literally talk about 90 minutes on the triggering events and the innocent standard and how it really does affect you. Pleading self-defense is simply not the option for those who misbehave. And that's what we're talking right here about. I've got ahead of myself. Let's just say that you were in a bar and you kicked, you inadvertently had your leg out and someone tripped over it. And they turn around to you and say, douche wad, or whatever. And then you poke them in the chest. That's bad behavior. All right? Let's just say that he poked you in the chest. Now he brought out a knife. And then you bring out your gun. All right? You still have that. You still have the ability to defend yourself with the gun, but be prepared to not be a total innocent person in that little engagement. That is something that you really need to incorporate. Now, we have talked in the past, there is ways to regain your innocence. That's like throwing up your hands and saying, I'm sorry, man, I don't want to have anything to do with this, backing out. However, the little caveat to that in the state of Minnesota is that there is black letter law stating that. However, the black letter law also states that if the person who is attacking you doesn't recognize that you don't want to have anything, it's on you at that point, because you were the the original aggressor in that thing. Misbehaving. Well, we'll talk a little bit about here. Religious authority, an eye for an eye. People will say, there's these YouTube comments all the time. If someone does this, he's wronging me, and I'm just going to shoot him. Well, that's out of anger. It's not out of fear. When you're dealing with self-defense, you're dealing that you fear imminent death or great bodily harm. It's not you are angry that someone stole something or wronged you. And if you verbalize that on YouTube, if you verbalize that on Facebook, wherever, the prosecutor is going to take a greater look at you. So people will say, oh, an eye for an eye. And if he originally, if someone steals something and we get in an argument, he's going to have to face the consequences of me shooting him in between the eyes. You know, it's amazing to me, and this is the genesis of this channel, on how this thing started, was all the stupid statements in blogs and forums on YouTube, on Facebook, anything like that. That's the entire genesis of what castle tutelage became, and later I started a business of 2A self-defense law for people who have this notion that, oh, if someone wronged me, I'm just going to shoot him in between the eyes, an eye for an eye. You know, he wronged me, so he's going to have to go through the consequences of it. And then you have the problem. You cannot provoke someone in trying to hit you. Okay, you can't go up to that person nose to nose and just say, "Go ahead, swing at me. Just swing at me." You lost your self-defense by saying that, and usually by that you already have an audience, right? And you are playing to the audience, and you're thinking that you're the big man, and you're sitting there saying, "You know something? I want to get into a fight. I want to act like I'm the bigger guy. So why don't you take a swing at me? You swing at me. Are you afraid? Are you chicken? Swing at me. Come on, you chicken." You are the provocateur. You are not the innocent party in this. All right? You are misbehaving, and the law doesn't like misbehaviors. Another thing is, oh, come on, let's settle this thing out in the parking lot. This is something called mutual combat, people. If you and some other drunk decided to go, hey, you know something? Let's go out there and settle this like men. Really? Let's go out there and settle this like men, so you can, have your little bud muscles flexing in front of each other. It's called mutual combat, people. Let's just say you started getting out in the fight, and the guy started beating you down pretty good, and by if your attacker has a position advantage, like is over the top of you and throwing your head against the cement sidewalk, you know that in that situation you can use deadly force. Well, in that situation you can use deadly force because of what is happening, but you have lost your innocence standard. This is something that you need to really rectify, and I just realized I'm missing something here. The doctrine of necessity. Okay? What the doctrine of necessity is, it allows you to break minor laws in a self-defense scenario to protect your life. One of the things we're being is like, if you go into a store with a sign on the store, no guns allowed in here, that kind of thing, that's going to be usually, depending on what state, okay, usually it's going to be a misdemeanor offense of some sort. It's not going to be a felony trespassing unless you've been there before and they've already, given you a trespass warning, that kind of thing. But if you go in there, say you go into Sam's, it has a sign, no guns allowed. You go into the food court in there and you get a hot dog. You're chomping on your hot dog, and a guy comes in and with a knife and is about to stab his estranged wife in front of his 2 children. You pull out a gun. You fear for her life for great bodily harm. You shot her. It was a clear understanding that if you didn't do anything, she would have been stabbed and possibly died in front of her children. Now you're thinking of yourself, well, isn't it anywhere you have a legal right to be, you can use deadly force? But if there's a sign there, am I an innocent party? Well, yeah, with the doctrine of necessity, it's going to allow you to forego minor law violations for self-defense or of yourself or a third party. Like if someone was following you and you're trying to get away, the speed limit was 55 miles an hour, and you were traveling at 65 miles an hour, well, you're illegal because you're doing 65 in a 55 mile an hour car, but the law will recognize that with the doctrine of necessity, that it will forego minor law violations to protect yourself. Okay. Looks like a couple of things we're missing out of here. This program is screwing up, and I'm not liking it. We talked about the doctrine of necessity in Bernard Goetz. I had this in a different section up here. Bernard Goetz, if you remember him, he was a guy in New York City where he was attacked. He occurred permanent bodily damage with the knee one time. He applied for the concealed carry permit in New York City. They denied him. So he bought a .38 anyway, and he started carrying it. A couple of years later, on a subway car, 4 guys came up to attack him and steal his money. He pulled out a gun, he shot him, and I forgot how many people died or didn't die. It looks like there's some kind of a computer error, but anyway. But what happened was that when the jury got the case, they didn't convict him of the murders because it was self-defense, but what they did convict him is having a gun. And see, this computer, I don't know what's going on with it right now. But they convicted him for having a firearm. All right, so he went to prison for about 8 months. That is what the doctrine of necessity can do for you. The one thing that is not up here is alcohol. Alcohol is a mood-altering drug. I don't care what you say, what people say. Some people will say, "Well, I can get into a self-defense event." I hear this a lot of times in Minnesota because you can blow a .04 and have a concealed carry weapon. Well, my friends, you can have if you blew a .03 and you have a weapon, you're going to say, well, I can legally carry it, but can you legally use it? Are you a reasonable person under that? And that is also going to be something that you need to take a look at. There's going to be people out there that says always and never. And I'm not a big always and never person. People will usually say, always carry your gun, no matter where you go, and if you can't carry your gun, don't go to that place. Well, you also have to live your life. You know, I have children, they have school events. Am I not going to go to their school event because I cannot have a gun at their school? Well, no. I'm going to enjoy my life and enjoy my children having a fun time at their school event. Yeah, same thing when it goes to alcohol. If you know you're going to be going into a restaurant and have a beer or two with friends, lock the weapon in your car. All right? Enjoy the few hours. And I always get comments about this. No, you always have to have your gun. Always and never. If you're going to have a drink, you cannot have your gun. You can't. Because if you do have a drink, prepare to be going the rest of your life to jail. All right? That is how it is. Okay? So when we're dealing with this, the triggering events, the innocence is the biggest part. It's that light switch. It must be on right now. If the people are running away and they're no longer a danger, that light is off. Do not be shooting at people who have no ability to any more of threat of death, great bodily harm, especially if they're running away. The threat must be imminent right now. Are you the innocent victim, or are you provoking people somehow? Are you misbehaving somehow? Is your doctrine of an eye for an eye kind of a situation? Let's settle this thing in the parking lot with mutual combat. All right, those are the things that the prosecutor is going to be looking for. Again, I wanted to try to make this short. This is something that I talk about for at least an hour and 15 minutes in my class. This is a very heavy, intense subject with a lot of variables. My name is Jeff. This is Castle Tillage 2A Law Self-Defense Network. I hope this helped.